Welcome to this explainer. I am so incredibly pumped to have you here today. Look, if you're just starting out on your coding journey, you've landed in the absolute right place. Before we jump into building massive web apps or throwing flashy animations on the screen or, writing heavy logic, we really have to take a step back. We need to understand the basic grammar of the language. Think about it. You wouldn't try to write a best-selling novel in a brand new language without learning the alphabet and basic sentence structure first, right? Well, coding is exactly the same. Today, we're diving into a beginner's study guide for JavaScript syntax and rules. This is the foundational stuff. It's the invisible architecture that makes literally everything else work. So grab your notebook, get comfortable, and let's build that rock-solid foundation together.
So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to hit Rule 1, case sensitivity, move into Rule 2, statements and semicolons, then check out Rule 3, spacing and comments, hit Rule 4, execution order, and finally, we'll wrap the whole shebang into a neat final study guide.
All right, let's jump right into Rule 1, case sensitivity.
Listen, if there is one trap that catches almost every beginner off guard, it is case sensitivity. JavaScript cares deeply, and I mean it is completely unforgiving about whether a letter is uppercase or lowercase. A really great mental trick is to just look at the word JavaScript itself. Notice that capital J and that capital S. Let that be your constant reminder. For example, look at the built-in function alert written entirely in lowercase. This works perfectly. It pops open a nice little box on your web page. But if you capitalize that A, no way. It becomes completely unrecognizable to the computer. Built-in functions require exact casing, or your script is just going to fail and throw an error.
And hey, this strict case sensitivity doesn't just apply to JavaScript's built-in dictionary. It absolutely applies to your own custom code too. If you create a custom function named myFunction with a capital F, and then later you accidentally type myFunction with a lowercase f, JavaScript is going to look at you like you have two heads. It'll have no idea what you're talking about. Even a single wrong capitalized letter breaks the connection entirely. The computer is not going to guess what you meant. It demands precision. So always double-check your spelling and your casing.
Moving right along to Rule 2, statements and semicolons.
So, we've talked about the individual words, essentially the vocabulary of our code. Now it's time to talk about the sentence-level grammar. The really crucial point here is understanding what a statement actually is. It's a piece of technical jargon you are going to hear constantly, but honestly, it's really quite simple. A statement is just an instruction in code. It's an action command. When you tell the browser to throw open an alert box, that's a statement. When you command the page to change its background color to blue, statement. When you tell an image to slide across the screen, statement. Almost everything you do in JavaScript involves writing statements to tell the browser exactly what actions to perform.
Which naturally leads us to a super common and frankly very important beginner question. What actually happens if you skip the semicolon at the end of a statement? In spoken English, we use a period to tell the reader that a sentence is finished. Well, in JavaScript, the semicolon is your period. It tells the browser, hey, I'm done with this specific instruction. But beginners always ask, do I really need it?
Short answer? Yes. Without semicolons, your code gets confused, and bugs will definitely start popping up as your script grows. Now, while modern JavaScript is sometimes smart enough to try and guess where your statement was supposed to end, you absolutely never want to rely on the computer guessing your intentions. If you stack up a bunch of statements and forget your semicolons, the browser might just blur them all together into one long, nonsensical command. Building the habit of ending every single statement with a semicolon is absolutely essential for writing reliable, professional code.
Okay. Let's shift gears to the visual side of things with Rule 3, spacing and comments. Now, unlike case sensitivity, JavaScript is actually not sensitive to white space or line breaks. Writing code isn't just about giving instructions to a machine, right? It's also about writing something that you and other humans can actually read. The computer would be perfectly happy if you jammed 10 different statements onto one single endlessly scrolling line. But imagine trying to read that. It would be an illegible mess. The professional standard is stacking your statements vertically, one statement per line neatly stacked. Maybe you add a blank line between groups of statements that do different things. Basically, format the code for the humans reading it. Make it clean, airy, and logical. And speaking of humans reading your code, that brings us to comments. Comments are these great little notes you leave right inside your code that the computer completely ignores. They are purely for you and your fellow developers. If you want to leave a quick single-line note, like maybe a header explaining what the next few statements do, you just use 2 forward slashes. But if you need to write a larger block of text, say a whole paragraph explaining a complex piece of logic, you use a forward slash and an asterisk to open it, and an asterisk and a forward slash to close it. You use comments to document the why behind your code. Think of them as little breadcrumbs you leave for your future self, so you don't wake up a month from now and wonder what on earth you were thinking.
That brings us to our final core concept. Rule 4. Execution order.
Let's walk through an invisible image analogy to see why this top-to-bottom order is so incredibly critical. How does JavaScript actually read the document you've created? Well, just like reading a book in English, it strictly reads and runs commands from top to bottom. Imagine you want an image to magically appear at the bottom of the screen. Step 1, you write a statement to make the image invisible. Step 2, you write a statement to move the invisible image down to the bottom. Step 3, you write a statement to make the image visible again. Because JavaScript runs top to bottom, the image fades out, moves behind the scenes, and reappears smoothly. But what if you accidentally swap Step 1 and Step 2? The browser will move the image while it's still completely visible. Your user is going to see this ugly, unintended flicker as the image slides across the screen before suddenly disappearing. The sequence of your instructions literally dictates the reality of your program. Order is everything.
All right, let's pull all of this together into Section 5, your final study guide.
We have covered an amazing amount of ground today to build this definitive rulebook. So here is your grand finale checklist. First, JavaScript is intensely case-sensitive. Always remember that capital J and S. Second, every action you take is a statement, and you absolutely must end those statements with semicolons. Third, use whitespace to your advantage. Stack your code neatly so humans can read it. Fourth, document your logic heavily, using single or multi-line comments. And fifth, always remember that your code executes strictly from top to bottom. I promise you, if you take the time to ingrain these 5 exact habits right now, you are going to prevent endless frustration and debugging nightmares later on. You're laying a flawless foundation.
Which leaves us with just one final thought. You've got the rules, you understand the grammar, you literally have the tools right now to tell the browser exactly what to do. So, what will your very first JavaScript statement build? Are you going to change the color of the entire web page, pop up a welcome message, or start moving elements around the screen? The blank canvas is all yours. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Get out there, start coding, don't forget your semicolons, and I cannot wait to see what you create.